What's up, guys? Steven from Quarantine Chats here, joined by Isaiah and Trevor. It is
What's up, guys?
Thursday, April 2nd, 2020. We're here stuck in the quarantine, but we got more sports to bring to you. We're going to talk about the NFL draft. Thank God that's not postponed. We've already covered some free agency. We're going to cover more free agency here. And we're joined by another special guest, first-time special guest, Firmin Lee. How you doing, Firmin?
I'm doing good. Pretty bored during quarantine, but I'm glad I'm able to come here and talk to you guys about sports.
Yeah. Glad to have you on the show. Glad to have you on the show as well, Trevor. So, as you guys all know, Trevor here is a junior at Ohio State University. That's where I met him. Met him at an OSU game, actually. Go Bucks,
Yep.
OH.
Blocko North.
Yes. And he is a logistics management major. He's joined us here in Pennsylvania. So how's that coronavirus situation looking for you over there?
It's pretty, standard across the board with social distancing and like your gas pumps turn off at a certain time. So like, I guess that's more along the lines of like a curfew. So you have to adjust to when you get gas and be like, if you go to New Jersey, you got to be careful because it's close to New York. And I have a couple family members who've been infected by it. So I have to, be careful when I do travel to New Jersey and just, be aware of, you don't know what things you're gonna come in contact with.
Yeah, got you. Obviously, the situation there isn't quite as dire in California. Furman has actually joined us here from the Bay Area as well. He's in Union City. Furman, how have things been for you with those online classes and just the overall situation?
It's just a different experience. Yeah. I think social distancing is definitely really important. But yeah, like for everybody, including students and professors, like it takes a bit of time to like adjust to everything. But I think over time with like remote learning, as we get used to the technologies, it's definitely a good way to keep everybody safe and prevent the coronavirus from continuing to spread. And through studies, I think just continuing to ask questions online and attending lectures, even though you're not actually present at the moment with the professor, it's still an important experience at that moment to grab and just to get information and gather all the things you need to study. So
Yeah, absolutely. Let's run through just some of the numbers right before we get into sports here. So right now we're past 1 million cases now, over 1 million now, Trevor. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
And we're at 53,000 deaths. Got about 212,000 recovered. So looking pretty grim over here. The U.S. now has about a quarter of the cases. And as you see, this curve here is going up exponentially. If you look at the logarithmic graph, we still got a very exponential curve here. Still got a long way to go before our rate even goes down, let alone the number of infected people. Let's look at some of the countries here. USA, as I said, has about a quarter of the cases here at 244K. Over 6,000 deaths now. Luckily, the recovered has finally passed the death toll, so that ratio is improving, that death to recovered ratio. Because before, I think it was like there were 3 times as many deaths as recovered. So we're finding new ways to get treatments. And here in New York occupies like 40% of the cases. And California is looking pretty bad. Michigan's catching up pretty quickly. And there's Trevor's home state right there at Pennsylvania, about 7,000 cases. So we're all kind of in dire situations here. My brother, actually, he's in Illinois studying right now. So his state's also looking in a pretty horrible shape as well. But anyway, enough of that gloomy talk. I know you hate to go over it, Isaiah, but I specifically had to keep you in the loop over here. Just made that segment right there for you. So let's get into a little bit of sports talk. Speaking about COVID-19, the NFL draft has not been postponed. I wanted to get everyone's reaction to that. Looks like Isaiah's got something to say before that, though.
Before we start our first topic, I need to make a very major announcement. So we're here at Carpool Chats. We are going to be doing something that no other show, ESPN First Take, Undisputed, Buzzer Beaters, they have never, ever done this. when the NFL draft starts on April 23rd, we're going to be here with you. Me, Steven, Ryan, Trevor, and Shree. We will be here with you. We are going to be doing an NFL draft live show. We're going to be watching the draft, and then we're going to be reacting to each pick as it comes in, and we'll be giving our reactions to how that team did in picking that player. And then after that, we're going to be talking about which player should the team that is on the clock pick next. So just letting you guys know, it's going to be a great time. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing show. It's going to feature me, yours truly, and Trevor, of course, my fellow Buckeye. It's going to feature my co-host on Fan Response, Ryan Schreiner. We're going to be bringing you our best reactions to the draft picks, 5 to 10 minutes at a time. You don't want to miss out on that. But finally, I want to get your guys' take. The NFL draft has not been postponed, despite concerns about the coronavirus, despite concerns about social distancing. Isaiah, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so my reaction to the NFL not postponing the draft is that this is why the NFL is king. Right now in our world, we've got nothing. There is no football, there is no basketball, there is no baseball, there is no hockey going on right now. All we have is being cooped up in our houses, going on social media 24/7, Netflix, playing bingo.
That's what I'm doing right now. I'm sharing the content to our pages. Hope you don't mind, guys. But go on, Isaiah.
Yeah. So right now, all we've got is, we're just wallowing in our in the depression of this virus. Every day you hear people getting sick, people dying. It's just been hella boring and hella miserable the last few weeks. We needed something to get our mind off this depression and this boredom, and the NFL has come through yet again. Now, instead of talking about how many people are dying or how many people are infected every day, we can talk about whether the Bengals will foolishly blow it on draft night and pass on Joe Burrow. Or we can talk about who the 49ers will select with the number 13th pick. Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, which receiver they're going to take. Or we can even talk about, are the Seahawks going to trade down like they always do in the first round? There's just a lot of great things to talk about now instead of the depressing virus every day. So kudos to you, Roger Goodell. Thank you so much for not pushing the NFL draft back and giving us something positive to talk about instead of that depressing virus.
Yeah, I totally agree here. It's definitely been very underwhelming with sports being postponed. We've never seen anything like this before. Like every sports event shut down. It's unprecedented. So having the draft is just a big boost to our morale. As you know, we always use sports to lighten ourselves up. So I think it's going to be a wild run, and I think we're going to have quite a few of gems to kind of look forward to, because this is a very, very strong draft. There's so many strong offense and defensive linemen that you won't want to miss it. Trevor, what are your thoughts?
Well, the draft not being canceled, that's one thing. The location of the draft, it's going to be weird because, like, you're going to hear the name being announced. No one's shaking hands with the commissioner. And it's just like, it's going to feel like a phone call. And it's just going to be it. It's like, there's nothing like an excitement. Yes, you're going to see like the commentators talk about it, and you're going to see the highlight clips like they normally do for it. But it's just going to be like an awkward experience. It's probably one of those once in a lifetime things that you're going to see in your lifetime. And like people are going to look back on 2020 and be like, the year without sports. And it'll be like an ESPN classic, a 30 for 30, and how the world like coped with all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Firmin, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with what all of you guys said about the NFL draft. Like, this draft class is pretty exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm glad Roger Goodell made the decision, despite all the things that's going on, to continue on with this event. Everybody's been talking about the coronavirus and social distancing, and that's literally all we've been seeing on the news, because everything else has been either canceled or nothing that's sports related is there's no events that are sports related, and especially with the NFL draft, events like these, it doesn't always have to be exciting in person. Um, a lot of these draft picks are made through phone calls, and even at that moment, if Roger Goodell doesn't shake hands with anyone, the fact that he's announcing the person's name is already has everybody up on their seats, and you could be watching this at home, anywhere, and traditionally people would still get together in like bars and going out together at night on a big screen TV to watch these draft picks. But with social distancing right now, it's still going to get us excited and pumped up for whichever players are going to get drafted with our favorite team. So yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be one exciting night. I'm excited to see a lot of our fellow Buckeyes kind of enter into the NFL for the first round. And, you already know, Trevor, we send the best players to the NFL. Just look at the
No
New
way.
Orleans Saints, man. They are an amazing, amazing squad there. So many Buckeyes on that team. But let's jump into the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that is moving out of the Bay Area, guys. They have signed Marcus Mariota. And actually, my co-host on Fan Response last night predicted that they would get Justin Herbert on top of that. So a lot of quarterback drama playing over in Las Vegas. Isaiah, what is your take here?
My take
Is Derek Carr's job in jeopardy?
Yeah, so my take on this is simple. It's what I said, and I've been saying this on my take, and that is Derek Carr is officially on the hot seat. The reason why I'm saying this is because there's been a lot of rumors that, John Gruden wants to move on from Derek Carr, that Derek Carr is not John Gruden's type of quarterback. John Gruden likes a quarterback that can take shots down the field and a guy that, can use his legs to extend plays. And Marcus Mariota, even though he didn't live up to the hype in Tennessee, he has he's very mobile. He can get out of the pocket. He takes more shots than Derek Carr did down the field. The thing about Derek Carr that I find very frustrating is that when, let's say you're on a 3rd and 1 situation, right? Derek Carr, when he sees pressure in a 3rd and 1 situation, instead of trying to use his legs to try to run for that first down, he just throws it away, or he dumps it off to a running back. And it's just like, dude, you give up on that play so easily. And that's what's been frustrating about Derek Carr ever since, his unfortunate broken leg incident. I just feel like that broken leg has caused him to be very scared of pressure. And that's why, that's why Derek Carr, he's just a scared quarterback now.
Yeah, I think one to add on to that, Marcus Mariota, he hasn't had the same career he's had in the NFL as in college, as a lot of college quarterbacks who kind of do well in college do. But part of it is he's had so many offensive coordinators. I mean, he's had 3 or 4 offensive coordinators since his rookie year. He's been playing in a run-heavy offense featuring Derrick Henry. And then before that, you had Dion Lewis on top of that. And he just hasn't, frankly, had many opportunities to really sling it down the field. He hasn't had the best receiving weaponry either. But besides having Delaney Walker when he was still on the Titans in his prime, he hasn't had that go-to wide receiver or tight end that the other quarterbacks have had, including a Jameis Winston, including Derek Carr, who had Cooper for a bit. I just think that that's really hurt him, and that this is a golden opportunity for him to now take that mantle from Carr.
Yeah. Well, even though what I said earlier, sounded like that I was hating on Derek Carr, I actually think that Derek Carr, for all of his flaws, he's actually a very underrated quarterback. If you look at his stats last year, he had by far one of the best statistical seasons of his career. And that was with weapons like Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow and Tyrell Williams being his number 1 receiver. He didn't have the best weapons, and he produced big time. So even though, I don't know if Mariota will take over for Carr this season, I think Gruden will use this season as a season to help mold Mariota into the quarterback that he wants Mariota to be. But yeah, I just think that, if this is truly Derek Carr's last season with the Raiders, I think a team like the Patriots should pick him up because he is very underrated.
Yeah, I'm going to step away for a moment, but I would love to hear, Trevor, your thoughts, and Firmin, your thoughts on the Derek Carr situation.
For me personally, I think like the Raiders might want to trade up to like get rid of Mariota or keep Derek Carr. It depends on how they feel for the draft. Because like they could get rid of Derek Carr and get a draft pick and then end up picking a wide receiver and start building up a wide receiver core for Mariota. But if you have to look at it, it's like, yeah, I can do a quarterback duel and have like a dual threat. So if the game's down to the wire and you like a quick deep ball, I could go with Derek Carr. But if I want to run the clock, I might as well just keep Mariota and just like run like quarterback draws and run options and, keep the game moving. And so you have more time of like wasting down the clock. Isaiah?
Well, so I'll just add on to what you said. I think it's definitely possible to just keep Mariota on the board and not necessarily use him as like the main quarterback option, but to use him to run the clock out or to bring in some new play designs that you wouldn't really see traditionally. Like what
Are
you've
you
seen
kind
with-
of suggesting that you run Mariota as almost like a Taysom Hill of the Raiders?
Well, that's like one way they could do it, but I actually have a lot to say about it, like surrounding this whole situation with Derek Carr's job on the line versus Mariota getting signed with the Raiders. So I think both of these quarterbacks have tremendous talent, and it's not easy to just look at their film and just say, oh wow, these guys perform really well, because in reality they do make mistakes. But I think Derek Carr specifically, it's always been known that John Gruden doesn't really have a good impression of him, and it's always been like a rumor that he wants to get rid of Derek Carr and move on from the Raiders. But the thing about Derek Carr is that, like Isaiah said, he had a lot of limited weapons in the past 2 years. And the thing is, with limited weapons, regardless of that, Derek Carr still produced he had a really good stat line last year. He broke through. He broke a lot of his old records, and also put his numbers were spectacular under John Gruden. So if you would add more talent around Derek Carr, especially with the O-line or wide receiver core that he can have options to, you'll definitely see an improvement in Derek Carr's performance, which is why I think signing Marcus Mariota, I think he has really similar talent with Derek Carr, other than the fact that he's able to be more athletic and mobile with the ball. Derek Carr I think that would motivate Derek Carr to work even harder to get on the field and be more aggressive. And, with Isaiah's correct about what Derek Carr hasn't been able to do well on the field. I think Derek Carr's main problem is that he keeps turning the ball over. He has a lot of these good drives that would send the Raiders to the red zone every time. But for some reason, they just can't finish. They'll either miss a field goal, or Derek Carr would simply, fumble or make the wrong reads, or on like a really easy third down conversion that's only like a couple of yards, he would not even go for the first down. He would just throw the ball away or take really bad sacks. So like Raiders offensively had really good drives. They just couldn't finish with Derek Carr, which is why I think they got Marcus Mariota to try to kind of add on to the competition and see what he can add on to John Gruden's style of play. Yeah.
Do you think the competition within Oakland is the best thing to do for Oakland, or is it more on the lines of like firing up Derek Carr, making sure he's like getting stuff done, or is it just to have like a secondary weapon? It's like, well, we're in the second half, Derek Carr, might want to rest, and then we go Mariota, change up the game plan, and now you just throw the other team's defense for a loop, and now you could possibly end up winning the game.
Well, it just all depends on the it all depends on the like the coronavirus situation. I'd say the preseason is still the best way to determine who fits Gruden's style the best. I think that's like a really good way to kind of balance out the quarterback competition and then see how each quarterback fits in the style for Gruden's offense. Now, my opinion for Marcus Mariota is like he needs to he needs to uh, he needs to do what the expectations like what the expectations are already there for him. We all expect him to come out of college really mobile, just like he was in Oregon, run away from the pocket and make good plays. And that's what he has to do with the Raiders. And he wasn't able to. That's what he wasn't able to do with the Titans. He took way too many sacks, and he did not know how to move around the pocket and as well as we expected him to. And I hope that with the Raiders, John Gruden is able to kind of coach him and provide some better protection on the offensive line, and also have some better coaching for him so that he's able to be more shifty and make more plays that the Raiders really need.
Yeah, well, I think that part of the reason why Mariota's footwork within the pocket and just pocket presence, as well as being able to get rid of the ball, why none of that was really developed that great is because he had such an inconsistency at the offensive coordinator and coaching positions that no one was really there to mentor him on that. But I wanted to throw a curveball at you guys because last night in fan response, Ryan threw a curveball at me. And he said that the Raiders, and this is his prediction, he predicts the Raiders are going to take Justin Herbert at that number 12 spot at quarterback. Do you guys see the Raiders potentially drafting another quarterback and then creating perhaps a three-headed monster here within that quarterback race?
Well, first
I
of
don't
all,
think so personally, but you can go, Freeman.
all right, so so I don't think that's a good decision, and I don't think the Raiders would do this because Justin Herbert, he's very mobile. He plays in a similar spread offense as Mariota did in Oregon, but if you compare their performances, it's clear that Mariota, he was a lot better in Oregon, and those expectations, like really, like when you think about it, in the Pac-12, when Mariota first went to the NFL draft, like, the expectations were super high, and if you see Herbert right now, he didn't bring the Oregon Ducks to the national championship. He didn't have, his numbers are not as great as Mariota's. So the thing is, the expectations are not as high for Justin Herbert. And given the fact that the two quarterbacks came from Oregon and Mariota performed a lot better, my impression is that Justin Herbert with a similar offense that he ran in Oregon would probably have a bit less of an impact. And I don't think it would be a good decision for the Las Vegas Raiders, to pursue him in the draft.
So right now the prediction has CJ Henderson, cornerback from Florida, going to the Raiders with their number 1 pick in the draft, their number 12 pick, and then Jerry Jeudy from Alabama for their number 19 pick, which would be their second pick in the draft. So they don't have the Raiders drafting any quarterback. But what about any other quarterbacks besides Herbert? If Jordan Love, or maybe just against everyone's expectations, a Tua Tagovailoa would fall into that number 12 spot. Can you picture the Raiders taking a gamble there then?
I think that the Raiders will take a quarterback in the first round of this draft. The reason being is because they are in a new town now, Las Vegas. What is the thing about Las Vegas that makes Las Vegas special? It's like the pizzazz, man. So I think the Raiders, when they go into Las Vegas, they need that the splash, the spark. So I definitely think they will take a quarterback, but I don't think it's going to be Herbert. I think it's going to be Jordan Love, because John Gruden has seen in the AFC West with Patrick Mahomes, what a quarterback with a strong cannon of an arm can do for you. And I just think he wants to emulate that with Jordan Love, who many in this draft consider to be the next Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the Jordan Love hype, and I've seen him play a couple of games at BYU, as Isaiah knows. I saw what he did against USC. Decent game, but I think his inconsistencies in being able to win and get it done in tight situations in college is really going to hurt him. So I don't see him going that high, personally. I don't see him helping being enough of a help for the Raiders to just bank their entire future on him. I agree with Bobby here, and I think that they don't need offense. They need defense here. But we're going to get a lot more of draft coverage and just overall reactions to the draft in our live draft show. Let's move on to the next move right here. The 49ers end up picking up
Before
Travis
you move on
Benjamin.
to that topic, I think Herbert is going to get picked up earlier in the draft, probably by the Chargers, and he wouldn't fall to Oakland. But it's a lot of like seeing if Oakland's willing to trade Mariota. I could see them trading with the Chargers if they want like a younger quarterback, because I feel like the Chargers want more of like an experienced veteran, but it really comes down to, do I want a quarterback that can be a franchise quarterback and have that rookie train up in the system, or do I want more of like someone who's seasoned a little bit, who knows how the NFL's played, versus me relying on a rookie who could have like a terrible season and end up making the team go like 4-11 or like 3-13. Is just like, why, when I could get a quarterback that can put me with like 7-9, it's like, okay, first year we're building up to it. Hopefully next year we go like 9-7 or 10-6.
Yeah, great point about that, Trevor. It all depends on where all of these quarterbacks are going to get drafted, including Tua, including Herbert, etc. So we're going to have to look at where everyone gets drafted, but we have Trevor Lawrence on the board. We got Tua, we got Herbert, we got Jordan Love. One of those four quarterbacks is going to fall outside the top 10. It's bound to happen. I just don't see Oakland. Oh, sorry, Joe Burrow, not Trevor Lawrence. But out of Joe Burrow to Jordan and Herbert, I definitely see one of them falling outside of the top 10. If that happens, I still don't see the the Las Vegas Raiders banking their entire future on one of those quarterbacks. It's just too much. There's just too many defensive flaws for them to work on their offense as of now. But I want to get into the Travis Benjamin move and get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't know what happened, the 49ers, I think it was last week, inked Travis Benjamin to a 1-year contract. I'm going to go to Firmin, since Firmin's a huge 49ers fan. Firmin, as a huge 49ers fan, what do you think about the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan signing Travis Benjamin?
All right. Well, it just all depends on, how many receivers we actually keep for the rest of the season for 2020. I've heard a lot of rumors about, like Marquise Goodwin from the 49ers leaving. So it's like very debatable, and you don't know what the circumstances are there, like for our depth charts for the receivers. And especially since we lost Emmanuel Sanders, the only really big playmaker for the wide receiver core is Deebo Samuel. And, I think Deebo Samuel is really talented and he's got a lot to show and develop, but it's definitely good to keep, to like add on more receivers to the core for the 49ers. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo, he might not be the most flashy quarterback, but he's definitely made a lot of the 49ers receivers, perform really well. And the throws that he's able to make that Garoppolo is able to make, it gives the 49ers receivers a lot of production. So, we've got Deebo Samuel, we've got Trent Taylor, we still have Goodwin, and then keep in mind, we still have the players that we drafted like early on in the second and third rounds, Dante Pettis and Jalen Hurd. And if these guys are able to show up next year, we're going to be a really dangerous offense. So it is exciting to add Travis Benjamin to our roster, and another part of the reason is because our wide receiver core is so injury prone. Even George Kittle, who's a tight end, it turns out he played through so many injuries in the 49ers Super Bowl run. And, with all those concerns, Jalen Hurd tearing his ACL back then, and now hurting his back last year and he's out for season. And also we've got Trent Taylor, who is also out with a foot injury, I think, for like the whole year. That's like my main issue with the 49ers receiving core. How durable are they, and are they all going to be able to play for the whole season healthy? So in my opinion, this was a good signing. I think Garoppolo is definitely going to be able to get all these receivers involved just as well as he did with Emmanuel Sanders and Debo. So, yeah.
Trevor?
I think the 49ers are going to be fine. They're loaded on the wide receiver core because of this trade. Even though they lost a few pieces, they're going to still have a competition in their division in the NFC West. It's always a battle. Teams in there, you don't know who's going to win the division. It's like 25% chance for you to win that division year in and year out, because the Seahawks could have like a magical run and somehow slip in the wild card spot, or somehow clinching the division, being like 9-7 or 10-6, and like your 49ers are close in that aspect. But it really depends on your schedule and players remaining healthy. If the 49ers players stay healthy, I think they can clinch the division, maybe get that 1 seed bye again, and just, maybe get that Super Bowl ring that they, should have gotten. But, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, so my thoughts on this Travis Benjamin signing, as you guys know, I'm a huge 49ers fan as well. My thoughts on this Travis Benjamin signing is I like it. It's a low risk, high reward move. It's a 1 year prove it deal. Travis Benjamin, when he last played for Kyle Shanahan, that was in 2015 when Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. He had a breakout season. He played in all 16 games. He had 68 catches, 966 yards receiving, and 5 touchdowns. It was his best season of his career, and then he parlayed that into a huge contract with the Los Angeles Chargers. But when he was with the Chargers, though, he didn't perform like he did in 2015. Sorry about that, Trevor. So that's why the Chargers let him go, because he just could never stay healthy with the Chargers. I think that if Travis Benjamin, if he can stay healthy, I think Shanahan can do a lot of creative stuff with him because he's really fast. And another thing that I think is that if Travis Benjamin, if he makes the 49ers roster, then that means either Dante Pettis or Trent Taylor they're done with the 49ers, because Travis Benjamin is primarily a slot receiver, and he's a kick returner. So if he makes the roster, I think he's going to be the guy that is going to be doing a lot of the kickoff and punt returning, considering his speed. And if he's playing in the slot, he's going to be taking Trent Taylor's role, because Trent Taylor, when he's healthy, he's the one that plays in the slot. So I just think it's a low risk, high reward move. If he comes into camp and performs, great. But if he doesn't and he can't stay healthy, then you can just cut him and you won't really eat that much money.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll add on to that. I think, I think Travis Benjamin, he's really fast. And the 49ers, they have some depth in punt and kick returning, but they've tried Dante Pettis for, I think, a couple years, and last season we saw him doing more of the reserve roles on the special teams, returning of the kicks, but he's fumbled a lot of those kicks, and eventually his opportunities got taken away by Kyle Shanahan. And I think Travis Benjamin, he would be an asset to the special teams in terms of just kick returning. I think we really need that in the 49ers position, and it would solidify not just the special teams, but the wide receiver core overall with his speed.
Trevor, you have any last thoughts on Travis Benjamin before we move on?
I really don't, because it's the 49ers is not my team. I don't really have to worry about Travis Benjamin until the Super Bowl. So it's just like me just sitting here like, yeah, he's okay. I just don't have to worry about it. Yes, every now and then you do play the 49ers in the like every so many seasons, but I have to worry about the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Raiders, and just the AFC just trying to get to the Super Bowl. So like this is like very minuscule. Chargers will probably pick up a wide receiver in the draft, and I'll probably be upset in the first round that they'll end up picking like a defensive tackle or something like that and be like saying we need a running back or something like that.
All right. Hey, before we exit out of our NFL talk for the time being, let me get your prediction, Firmin. The 49ers, they acquired the number 13th pick in the DeForest Buckner trade. So right now, I think the 49ers are looking at wide receivers because we have to solidify our wide receiver corps. Out of the 3 top wide receivers in this draft, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, who do you think come draft night, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan select with the number 13th pick?
All right, so I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be one of the top receivers off the board. So if he doesn't get picked by any of the previous 12 draft picks, I think Kyle Shanahan's definitely going to take Jerry Jeudy over the rest of the wide receiver prospects that are on the top of the board. Other than that, I think Oklahoma, CeeDee Lamb is pretty good as well as like another option. He's caught a lot of touchdowns under the quarterbacks we see today. Kyler Murray, who had superb numbers, and also Jalen Hurts. So I think both of these receivers would be really good for the 49ers. But I think a better option, I'll add on to this, instead of drafting a receiver in the 13th pick, I think we need a corner. We have really weak depth in that position. And last year, I mean, you've seen Richard Sherman, he had his speed exposed. He can play well, but he gets beat a lot because he's getting older, he's regressing. And then we also have a crazy rotation of the second corner slot with Mosley and Ahkello Witherspoon, who had been really inconsistent. So I think, in my opinion, instead of choosing a wide receiver for this, they definitely need a corner to fill in for that gap on our defense. So I hope Kyle Shanahan makes a good decision here.
Yeah, for me, I would want Jeudy. That would be my first choice because Jerry Jeudy, out of all the receivers, is I think the best route runner in this draft. But like Firmin said, I don't really want a wide receiver because I think the 49ers have already like too much wide receivers. It's just a matter of if they can stay healthy or not. The guy that I really want the 49ers to draft is Derek Brown, the defensive lineman from Auburn. When DeForest Buckner left, he left a big hole on the inside. I know we have Solomon Thomas, but Solomon Thomas hasn't really done anything since he's been drafted. So I think if you put Derek Brown, who when he was with Auburn, you had guys like double teaming, triple teaming him. That's how like powerful he was. For last year, the reason why our defensive line was just so good was because DeForest Buckner was eating up all the offensive linemen, which opened up Armstead, Bosa, D Ford, and those other guys to go and eat. I think the 49ers need that, and Derek Brown would come in. He would eat like 2-3 defenders, giving Armstead, Bosa, and D Ford the opportunity to go get the quarterback.
Yeah, I think the Niners do need a defensive tackle that's big enough to handle that position that DeForest Buckner once that he once had. But in my opinion, I think Robert Saleh has done a great job in rotating the defensive line. So I think it worked really well last year as long as everybody was healthy. If Robert Saleh just kept changing up the defensive line every play, it didn't really matter who was at the center. We were able to provide pressure like everywhere, and they were able to get rested and then prepare for the following plays after a couple of plays on the sideline. And I think with Armstead, Bosa, and D Ford together, all three already provide a lot of threats. So for the offensive line in the opposing team, that's a lot to focus on. And I think our rotations, especially with our really high prospect Solomon Thomas, and then we also kept Ronald Blair. I think these guys, they'll have a really big impact on the defensive line, regardless of their roles last year, because I think this rotation would constantly bring pressure to the opposing team's quarterback.
Yeah, about Ronald Blair, like I have a question about him because defensive linemen, when they suffer a torn ACL, some of them aren't really like the same ever again. So I really need to see like how Ronald Blair is like come on the field in August when he's back from that ACL injury. All right, Trevor, speaking of NFL draft predictions, you're a Chargers fan. Your Chargers
Yes.
have the number 7th pick. Who do you think your Chargers will pick?
That is an interesting question because I notice a lot of our weapons are slowly deteriorating, and like there's a lot of areas that the Chargers definitely need to improve upon. Like our offensive line is just not, it's terrible. I'm just gonna say now, it's flat out terrible. And I think if we're gonna try to get a quarterback, we either need to build up an offensive line or figure out a way for a better defense. Like a lot of our games were close, and yes, it's going to happen in the NFL. Your games are going to be like maybe a touchdown difference, but you should try to be able to close those games out. And like looking at when Phillips Rivers was playing, the offensive line just broke down, and it was just embarrassing. Like he was making great drives, and then like the defense just came and sacked him. Now it's like 3rd and 15. I'm like, really? Now we're going to have to punt, and like that's going to hurt the comeback drive. So I think they're probably going to pick up an offensive line. If not, I have a feeling they'll probably get a running back and then probably get like a late round, like 2nd round quarterback. They don't want to probably put tons of money into a quarterback. They may want to do a quarterback duel and see what happens, but I think it's going to be some time until they figure out a quarterback scenario, or they might just tank this year and wait for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, dude. Imagine if the Chargers get Trevor Lawrence, man. Wow.
It'd be a nice
That'd be
experience,
crazy.
and like looking at that division, it's slowly starting to heat up if they do get Trevor Lawrence, though. So Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence, that's like
Ooh.
Peyton Manning and Tom Brady moment. So I don't. It's gonna be fun to watch if that does happen.
Yeah, dude, you're right. The AFC West is starting to heat up. You've got the Chargers, if they get Trevor Lawrence, man, you've got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Broncos, don't sleep on them, dude. Their Broncos should have won 10 games last year if the calls had gone their way, and you got the Raiders. So, yeah, you're
With
right.
Mariota, so like you have like a hot division right there.
All right. Anyways, we're gonna move to before we pick our division or playoff teams. We're going to talk some NBA real quick. And the topic that we're going to be talking about is a topic that I've been throwing out there ever since Klay Thompson. It was announced that he tore his ACL, and then Curry broke his hand. And that is, should the Golden State Warriors, they have the number 1 pick in this year's draft, should the Golden State Warriors take Lonzo Ball's little brother, Lamelo Ball, with the number 1 overall pick? And if they don't, where do you guys think would be the best fit for Lamelo Ball in the NBA? Firmin, I'm going to go with you first.
All right, so my opinion, I do understand your point of view of Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. Stephen Curry and Klay, they recently just lost pretty much almost the whole season to injuries, and also Steph is like 32 years old and Klay is 30. So you don't know how much longer they have with the Warriors, with their high-powered, really fast-paced offense. I don't know if they're going to be athletic enough to continue running the same plays, and but regardless of that, there's so many years left for their potential, and and as long as they're on the court, they're still able to produce and really make a lot of plays. So I don't think LaMelo Ball would be the best fit as of now to the Warriors. I think LaMelo Ball has a lot of potential to really utilize all of the other players on the court and turn them into good players. And that's not, and the Warriors, they already have a decent core, and I don't think that's what that's not really what LaMelo Ball or the Warriors need. You know, they don't need a player to.
Yo, Firmin, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. Yeah, so they don't need players to basically work around their whole entire offense. I think the Warriors, they should focus on getting a big man and really getting
I
that.
think we're having some.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Firmin. You were
Okay.
having some. You were having some technical difficulties earlier.
Okay, so like I said earlier, I think Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson are they're at their peak, so it's going to be a lot harder to run their offense with the Warriors because it's fast paced. But even when they're on the court, they're still pretty effective. And LaMelo Ball, in his play style, he makes all the other players around him really good on the court. So the Warriors, they already have like a pretty good core right now. And I don't think they need LaMelo Ball to continue to make. I don't think they need a player like LaMelo Ball. That's what I was saying before. Instead, they need to get like a center or some big man that could, really be a threat in the paint. So he would attract a lot of defenders, with either scoring or rebounding, and that would open up the perimeter a lot more for Klay and stuff. So instead, I think LaMelo Ball should go to other teams that really need more playmakers. So one of them, I'm gonna have to say, I really hate to say it, the New York Knicks. For the past almost like decade, they've had a lot of players coming in and out, but even with like a really talented player like Carmelo, they haven't been able to do much, or Amari. And I think, as of now, the Knicks they just really need this one player to, help their entire offense perform better overall. And I think LaMelo is a really good fit for that because he's such an all-around player. And, just like his brother Lonzo, he's not all about scoring. He's about, passing, setting up for really good plays on the fast breaks, making really good passes when they matter, and also just hustling. So the Knicks would be a really good fit for LaMelo. And also in the Western Conference, I think the Phoenix Suns definitely need a player like LaMelo Ball. I know Isaiah really likes this player, Devin Booker, and this guy is a beast. And if you add LaMelo Ball on that court along with DeAndre Ayton, these guys are young and they've got a lot of potential. And if their chemistry builds up, I definitely see the Suns as a really big threat. Even if they have Ricky Rubio right now, I think Ricky Rubio, he plays in a similar style as LaMelo Ball. He tries to motivate his players, but I think LaMelo Ball, as of now, he's younger and he's just a lot more, athletic, and he's got that height and everything. So I think the Phoenix Suns would definitely need him if LaMelo Ball falls further down the draft, if the lotteries work out well for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah. So Trevor, how about you?
I kind of have to agree. I kind of agree with Firmin on the Phoenix Suns because like that team has potential, and like they do that. Now you have like almost you're building up your big three. Then after that, they get a nice big man next year, or pick one up in the free agency or in the second round of the NBA draft. And right there, you could have like a nice little team chemistry building up. And then maybe by year 3, you end up trying to do a playoff push and trying to get like the 6th seed in the playoffs. But for the East is really hard because like a lot of the teams are rebuilding.
Yeah.
So it's like, do they want a guard, or are we going more towards big men? Because like there's a lot of big men being pumped out of the NCAA at the moment. And a lot of them are coming from like Africa. So like some of these big men can start shooting threes. And it's like, do I need a guard to bring a ball up, or do I just already have a guard, don't need a shooting guard because my big men can launch threes and make them like 35% of the time, even though that's a low percentage. But for a big man, that's pretty significant if you look at that in that line. So I want to go with a team that really needs it. I feel like the Orlando Magic as a spot to go so they can start building up their almost little big three, a couple years. And then Lamelo Ball is going to mature in the league, and that's enough for them to accumulate a few players and see like his overall stats and maybe attract some other players to join them.
Yeah, great point, Trevor and Furman. But I think that the Warriors are a perfect destination. Well, yeah, they are a perfect destination for LaMelo Ball, because what is the draft about? The draft is always about the future. And I really think that the Warriors should start prepping for the future now. Yes, they've got Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson. They just got Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green. But listen, those guys are getting older. Curry's like, 32? Klay's getting up there. They have a lot of mileage on their legs. They are going to start breaking down soon. And you need a guy, if you want to continue winning like in the future, you need a guy that can come in and replace one of those key cogs, Steph or Klay, and keep the ship moving. And I think that if you get LaMelo Ball, you can put him on the bench, let him develop, and then when like Stephen Curry starts breaking down, probably in like 3 years, then you can move Steph, and you could have like LaMelo Ball, who's kind of like Stephen Curry, just doesn't shoot the three ball that well as Stephen Curry, come in, replace Steph, and your machine will be moving like it is now. I think that, I just think the Warriors, they need to prepare for the future. And let me throw something at you guys. Like, if the Warriors do draft LaMelo Ball, do you guys see LaMelo Ball as like a sixth man for the first couple seasons of his career, like I suggested? Or do you think the Warriors would try to trade like one of Curry or Klay? Or maybe a Draymond, who knows?
Why would they try to trade away Curry? That's the real question. He's the
Like-
golden boy. He's an MVP. He basically built the Golden State dynasty before KD even joined. So it's like, to be honest, I want to see Stephen Curry retire as a Warrior. It just makes sense. If he goes somewhere else, it's like watching Dwayne Wade go to like the Bulls. He didn't have to go. Like, he could just retire on the Heat, maybe go to Cleveland, play with LeBron a little bit, and then return back to Miami. That was fine, but going to the Bulls was unnecessary in that sense.
Yeah, I just think that, well, the reason why I'm suggesting the thing about trading Curry or Klay is because if you trade them right now, you can get high peak value. Like, let's say Giannis. Do you think you can maybe trade Curry for Giannis?
Well, the thing is, they've got Andrew Wiggins right now, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but if they do decide to build around Andrew Wiggins, they could easily, if LaMelo stays with the Warriors, depending on the circumstance, they could easily continue to build the team. And, next year, if Giannis becomes a free agent, they could definitely pick him up. Or they could still have, some prospects that they want to draft in the later rounds if possible. And just get that big man into a solidified position for the Warriors. And, LaMelo, he could start off at the bench as of now. And I think that it would still help the bench a lot because, like I said, LaMelo is able to set up the plays. And, while the starters get to rest, I think over the years, LaMelo can really build up that chemistry and really help overall the entire Warriors roster, build around him. And I think that's where most of the potential, comes to life in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you draft LaMelo Ball right now, you could put him on the bench and it would work perfectly for now in the future. You put him on the bench and let Curry, Klay and those guys start. And then, like, let's say Curry, like, he's tired, he comes off, LaMelo Ball replaces him. There's no, you don't lose any, you don't lose down any points. So I just think that LaMelo Ball would be perfect for the Warriors now and the future. And if they don't draft him, the place that I really think LaMelo Ball should go to is the New York Knicks, because the New York Knicks, how many free agents and lottery picks have they struck out on? Like, let's say last year, people were saying they were going to get Zion, Kyrie, KD, Kawhi, and nothing ended up happening. The New York Knicks, they need something to finally happen that is good for them. And I just think that if LaMelo Ball goes there, he'll be like the savior for the New York Knicks, and he's going to be like, he's going to ball out of the garden. It's going to be really, really exciting for a city like New York.
Yeah, I think at this point, the Warriors need someone who's more physical and can really complement the offense rather than take away from almost. As Firmin has already mentioned, LaMelo Ball is a really great distributor. He's someone who can facilitate an offense, but he really needs the ball in his hands. And when you have Steph Curry and Klay, and you don't have any timetable of them really retiring or regressing, it's tough to take that gamble now. Now, if you were to say Klay came back from the injury or never got injured, and we saw clear regression from him, clear signs that he would no longer be the same player, I think that would be more justified. But at this point, I think Anthony Edwards and James Wiseman, for the reason of being more physical, as well as more of just the scorers that can complement Curry and Klay better, that's where you lean with your number 1 pick, number 2 pick, or number 3 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, depending on where the Warriors land within the draft.
And Steven, like, where do you think, if Golden State doesn't pick LaMelo, where do you think is the perfect fit for him? Like, I've mentioned New York. Firmin's mentioned New York, Phoenix. Trevor says Phoenix, right?
I said Phoenix and the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, Phoenix and the Orlando Magic, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of those are great spots, but I totally agree with you. The New York Knicks are just a tumbling mess, and they have been really the joke of North American sports. I think they need some iconic figure like LaMelo Ball who can really bring in ticket sales. Maybe he could be like the next big ticket, you know what I mean? But I also just think that offensively they need a floor general. They need a leader. They've tried with Carmelo where they just had a person who's athletic and can score the rock, but they really need someone on that team. And I think LaMelo Ball's the guy who has that kind of leadership, and he has that kind of talent to help out the team, not just in putting up points and stats, right, but getting other players involved.
Yeah, so imagine LaMelo Ball with LeVar Ball at MSG.
That would be quite the sight to see.
All right. Anyways, before we exit out of this LaMelo Ball topic, I just need to add something to Firmin's point about if LaMelo Ball does go to Phoenix. Like everybody knows, my favorite player is that is not on the Lakers is Devin Booker. If LaMelo Ball does go to the Phoenix Suns, Firmin, you mentioned that Devin Booker's doing really good with Ricky Rubio right now. LaMelo Ball is Ricky Rubio on steroids. Devin Booker would be even better with LaMelo Ball as his floor general instead of Ricky Rubio. So just wanted to add that. All right, let's move on to the topic that you all came here for, and that is our NFL playoff predictions post free agency. So let's start with the NFC. Let's go to the NFC East. You got the Dallas Cowboys. They just added Mike McCarthy to be their new head coach. The Redskins, Ron Rivera, he's their new head coach. The New York Giants, Joe Judge, he's their new head coach. And the Philadelphia Eagles, they didn't really do that much this offseason. So who do you guys got winning the NFC East?
This is a tough one. It's really tough because I think the Cowboys, by keeping Amari Cooper, Prescott, and Elliott, they still got that three-headed monster offensively. But the Eagles with Carson Wentz, obviously last year winning the division, they're always a threat in the East. But my gut still leans with the Cowboys. I just think that the offensive talent that they have is still superior to what's going on the Eagles. So I'm going to take the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree with you, Steven. I think the Cowboys, they have a lot of talent on offense. And, with the addition of Mike McCarthy, I think they're really going to be able to, take all their players to the next level. And every position is pretty much filled on the roster. Yeah, you've mentioned Amari Cooper, and they've still got Zeke and Dak Prescott, under center. So it's definitely a really tough division, because the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants, they've always been like a big three in the NFC East every year, and they're always competitive. But yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give this to Dallas Cowboys, because I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles, even though they've won the division last year, they really screwed up in the free agency, because obviously they need wide receivers in order to develop around Wentz, but their receivers have either not been healthy, or they just don't have enough depth in the wide receivers course. So they need other players that from the practice squad, or just anyone that's just working, working at like Safeway or something, to all of a sudden play wide receiver in that position for the Eagles and start for them. Given these receivers on a depth chart, and the Eagles are still able to go 9-7, I think they really messed up their opportunity to be contenders in the NFC East, because if they actually pursued another receiver or a better weapon in the free agency, they'll definitely be a lot more of a threat, and they'll definitely be on my top list of every prediction of winning the NFC East instead of the Cowboys.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of shifting into that era where offense is really starting to win the championships. The Chiefs and the Ravens just absolutely dominated the AFC last year, and we just saw how dynamic that team was in the Chiefs, being able to take down the Niners despite them controlling the ball for so long with the running game, and despite them pressuring the heck out of Mahomes. Just offensive firepower is becoming more and more important within the NFL. Trevor, you actually live somewhat near Philadelphia. You put faith into your local team or the Dallas Cowboys? Because that seems like a two-horse race here in the NFC East.
It really is. And like most people say, if the Eagles can stay healthy, they have a good chance of winning that division. But if they don't, I will say it will go to the Cowboys. And it will always, like for that division, it always comes down to week 17, and you just don't know what can happen. And it's like the weirdest Cinderella story that you could hope for. Like the Eagles done it in the past, like the miracle at the Meadowlands with the punt return touchdown at the final moments, and the Eagles win it, and then it gives them that boost into a playoff spot for a wild card. So there's a lot of things in that division that can go either or. And I'm still leaning towards the Cowboys, but if the Eagles stay healthy, I'm gonna go with the Eagles.
Yeah, into the NFC East, Isaiah, we want your take as well.
Yeah, wow, I was pondering this a lot today. The Cowboys, they locked up Amari, they locked up Zeke, they even locked up Dak Prescott, but they lost a lot of talent on defense. The Eagles, they didn't really do that much. They lost Nelson Aguilar, but he dropped a lot of passes last year. He was like my boy Stephen H. Wang when it came to playing pickup football. Sorry, Stephen, I just had to throw.
You had that one pass I dropped, which is a kickoff return, but all right.
But they added Darius Slay, one of the best safeties in the game. The Redskins, Ron Rivera, we don't know who they're going to start at quarterback because Ron Rivera brought in Kyle Allen to compete with Dwayne Haskins, and I think Kyle Allen might have the edge because he played for Ron Rivera in Carolina. And, the Giants, I don't really like what the Giants did. I'm going to go with the Cowboys, though. I'm going to go with the Cowboys, even though I feel like the Cowboys offseason isn't really that good as everyone is making it out to be.
Okay, so we got the Cowboys for me. Furman's also got the Cowboys, correct?
Yep.
Isaiah's got the Cowboys. Trevor, what's your final take?
I should just flip a coin.
All right, Trevor said he's flipping a coin. He'll be back with that result in 2 months, guys. Okay, let's move on to the NFC North here. My division, which is another tough one with the Vikings, the Packers, and the Bears. I think the Bears have a resurgence in this division, and Man, it's tough. I think because the Bears match up better against the Vikings than they do the Packers, I see the Packers coming out on top in this division. We could potentially have like 3 teams making it into the playoffs from this division because the Vikings really, they lost Stephon Diggs, but you got to remember they played much of their season without Adam Thielen last year. So with Thielen as the clear number 1 weapon now, with Dalvin Cook and Madison getting more and more experience within that system, I see great things for the Vikings, but I'm going to have to go with the Packers here. At 11-5, they'll take the division.
Firmin?
All right. So, over the past 2 or 3 years, I've always made my predictions in favor of the Minnesota Vikings. But I definitely think with the loss of Stephon Diggs, you're definitely going to see them regress. And I don't think, with just Adam Thielen, you're going to have a better production unless you pick up a really good wide receiver from, the draft or an undrafted free agent. So as of now, I think the Packers might take this division because you've seen how well they've worked under Matt LaFleur's new offense and the way they're able to just, get Aaron Rodgers out of the pocket, scrambling more often, getting the running back. I believe it's Aaron Jones, just, grouting and pounding. I think with that style of offense, they've really put a lot of pressure on the opposing teams to try to rally back with a 4-minute offense or even less. So I think the Packers have for the next year, they definitely have this division on edge. But I do think the Vikings and Bears, they can be really good contenders for the wild card. I think the Bears, they've got Nick Foles in their free agency, right? So
Yeah.
With Nick Foles, I think they've got a pretty solid defense as well. So working around Nick Foles, he's been a Super Bowl MVP. You've seen what he can do. The potential is definitely there. And between the Bears and the Vikings, I think they're still able to be really good contenders in the NFC North. But I think the Packers will still be the number one, the division winner in the NFC North.
I feel like the NFC North is like the ultimate just parity conference for this year. They have the 3 teams that could all make a run for the playoffs and for the division. But I feel there's no standout squad within the NFC North. No team that can really challenge the top dogs of the NFC like the Saints or the Niners. So this one will be interesting to watch. I don't think any of these teams really get close to the championship, but still a fun division to predict nonetheless.
Yeah. How about you, Trevor? Who do you got?
Give me that cheese set. I'm going with the Packers.
Oh,
Boo! If you're gonna pick the Packers, don't bring the mascot into it. Come on, Trevor. I'm standing right here as a Vikings fan.
But yeah, the Packers is just like a team that is just like playoff bound. Like they're Super Bowl, I shouldn't say Super Bowl caliber ready, but I think Aaron Rodgers and his time in Green Bay, I feel like is getting closer and closer to the end. I think he needs that one more Super Bowl so he can ride off to the sunset and finally leave the NFL. But that's not going to happen because his team is just not going to get him to the promised land. And he might become a free agent at some point. And when he does, that's going to be a great conversation to have on this channel and just to chat about. But that's not going to happen. So I think the Packers are going to clinch it and they're going to have to play, I guess, wild card weekend. But it's going to be an intense. They're going to get past it and then probably lose in the divisional round.
Hey, all I'm saying is, us Vikings fans wouldn't mind having him over. Another Brett Favre situation.
Yeah.
Because, hey, let me tell you this, give us Aaron Rodgers, and he'd already have his second Super Bowl ring. That guy made a mistake. He made a mistake re-signing with the Packers, and we're just going to have to wait and see what he decides long-term. But this one's about who wins the division this year, Isaiah. So this year, do you have faith in those cheeseheads?
Give me that bad man, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, man.
You heard it.
They are the cream of the crop in the NFC North. Let's break it down. The Packers, I feel like, are the most complete team in that division. The Vikings, come on, you guys know me already. I've never, ever, ever believed in Kirk Cousins. I think that he's the most overrated quarterback in the NFL, and that if you plug Derek Carr into that Minnesota Vikings offense with Thielen and Diggs and that defense, Derek Carr would have been to a Super Bowl by now with that Vikings. So the Bears, Nick Foles, Mitchell Trubisky, oh my gosh. And the Lions, I just don't like Matt Patricia, and they lost Darius Slay. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers.
All right. Well, what you put about in Derek Carr there, Martin Garcia is going to love it, and that's it. Because you sound crazy, man. You had your fair share of crazy takes, but come on, Derek Carr leading the Vikings to the promised land. Get out of here. Let's move on to perhaps the most competitive division in the NFC, and it's really going to be between these next two divisions we go over, the South and the West. We're going to start with the NFC South. Obviously, the Buccaneers added Tom Brady. The Falcons end up getting Todd Gurley. Saints are still Super Bowl contenders in that division, and they just continue to progress with their team moving forward. You got to think that they're the favorite, and so I already got my prediction in. It's going to be the New Orleans Saints. I know the Panthers with McCaffrey, the Buccaneers with Brady, and the Falcons with Gurley and Matt Ryan now. They're going to be feisty to beat, but I got to go with the continuity here.
I'm going to go with the GOAT, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is Tom Brady's, this is Tom Brady's first year with actual weapons. Look at all the things that he had in New England. Come on, man. It was like a high school football team with what he had. Now he's got Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, 2 Pro Bowl receivers, plus a tight end who has lots of talent in O.J. Howard. Plus their defense is one of the up-and-coming defenses in our league. You've got Ndamukong Suh with Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, and then I think you've got Levante David and Devin White. Plus, they might add Jadeveon Clowney. So if they add Jadeveon Clowney, that's one of the best defensive lines we've got in the NFL. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. I just think that Brady is hungry to prove to the world that last year was a fluke, and he's going to lead the Buccaneers to a 11-5 record in the division.
Folks, we're stumbling on unprecedented territory here, uncharted territory. This is the first time I've heard Isaiah in his entire lifetime praise Tom Brady, because this guy sure as hell thought that Brady was done after that Titans game. But to be fair, that Tampa Bay offense is much nastier than what they got in New England, in a good way. So,
all I just got to say to that is that it just took Brady leaving New England for me to say, you're the GOAT, man.
Okay, that's fair. I'll accept that. But anyway, not only do I not have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning that division, Trevor, Furman, and Isaiah, I don't have them making the playoffs.
What?
Whoa.
Yes,
Okay.
that defense,
That's a
that
bold
defense
statement.
cannot be saved by Tom Brady. All right. He's not going to be as risky with the ball as Jameis Winston. And while that'll lead to less turnovers, it's still going to take a little bit away from the offense. And the running game is still a huge mess. Give me the Buccaneers and miss the playoffs. And I'm going to take the Saints to win the division. But before we get into that, because that's a hot take right there, I still want to hear your division winners of the NFC South.
All right. So, yeah, I think this division is really solid on offense for the past few years. They've seen literally every year, except the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they've seen one of these teams make the Super Bowl, or at least be Super Bowl contenders. But I'm going to have to keep it real here. You might think that this team has the most potential to be Super Bowl contenders, but the last time they made it to the Super Bowl was 2010. So regardless of the talent that they have, I think they're going to have a falling out this season. So I'm going to have to give this division to Tampa Bay.
Wow. 2 people picking Tampa Bay now. Trevor, it's all up to you, man.
Well, this division is going to get hot. It's going to get feisty. It's going to be fun to watch. But Tom Brady can't do it. I'm sorry. Yes, he's gonna get a wild card spot. He's not gonna miss the
Okay.
playoffs.
Okay.
But if he misses it, it's like LeBron James missing the playoffs. It's like unheard of. So that's a shocker. But like that's like if Tom Brady gets hurt, and Tom Brady's not gonna get hurt. He knows how to get rid of the ball. He's not gonna sit in the pocket and take a sack. So that's that. But for me, I'm gonna believe in Matty Ice and the Falcons to win this division.
Whoa. I love it. I love
It's a
it.
big statement, but he's been sucking for the past 2 years. I need him to turn it around. I picked him for fantasy, and it's just painful to watch. Throwing to Julio Jones, and Julio Jones doesn't score touchdowns, and he has like 10-point games in fantasy. Imagine if he at least caught 2 touchdowns a game. He'd be so higher in fantasy, and he'd be gone in the first round. Fans are just waiting for Julio Jones to go off. Now they have Todd Gurley. It's perfect. It's like a perfect storm. They can win this division. If not, even clinch a wild card berth. That's how much they have. I have a feeling that this team is going to go 10-6.
I love it, Trevor. I love the take. The Falcons are certainly one of those dark horse teams this year, but really, they're a lot better than what most people would assume. Matty Ice could have a resurging party right here. So it's going to be a fun division to watch, but it looks like our quarantine chat's consensus pick here is the Buccaneers with 2 votes from Isaiah and Furman.
I'll
Let's
add on
go
to
to the-
Tampa Bay, man, real quick. So, Bruce Arians is really good at developing an offense. And, Tom Brady under Bill Belichick with a strong offense and with Tampa Bay right now, they have a lot of good players to build around Tom Brady. It's not like any random receivers picked up from like the 7th round of the draft or a free agent. So I think Bruce Arians is really the talent here along with Tom Brady, and they're going to really take their offense, to high expectations next year. And on top of that, like, you can't disrespect the defense. Like Isaiah said, they actually have a lot of talent on the defensive line. And if Tom Brady plays well and doesn't turn the ball over on offense, like, this team can actually be really good and go way past the expectations and even beat the Saints.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be one heck of a division to watch. Let's move on to the next division, and this is the home division for Furman and Isaiah, who are Niners fans. Isaiah is somehow a Niners and a Rams fan. We can get into that a little bit later, but this is the division that Isaiah and I really see as the most competitive one, not only in the NFC, but in the NFL this year. And man, this is going to be really, really tough to pick here because you have Seattle, you have Los Angeles, and you have San Francisco. All these teams have the experience of winning previously. And then the Cardinals, they add DeAndre Hopkins for basically a washed up David Johnson. That offense is going to experience a really big boost with Cliff Kingsbury leading that offense, Kyler Murray, and then adding in the premier receiving target. That's what you really need to compete in the NFL. I'm going to give it to the Seahawks, though. I just think that their championship pedigree, their experience of just being able to win in so many high-pressure situations. Last year, they were the best team in the entire NFL at winning games from decided by 1 possession or less. I think that continues on with Russell Wilson's leadership, and they just get it done this year.
All right. I'm going to go with my team, the San Francisco 49ers, the team that made the Super Bowl this year, that should have won the Super Bowl had it not been for those bogus refs calls. But we're not talking about the Super Bowl. We're talking about who wins the NFC West. Yeah, the 49ers lost to Forrest Buckner, but we gained the number 13th pick, and we've got most of our offense and defense coming back. So I just think that this team is going to come back hungry. And, yeah, I get Arizona added DeAndre Hopkins. Seattle, we don't know about Jadeveon Clowney. The Rams, they lost Todd Gurley. So I just think the 49ers are the most complete team in that entire division. So that's why I got them winning it. Trevor?
By the way, guys, if you guys didn't know, Isaiah picks like the 49ers to win the division every year. He picked them in the year that they went like 2-14 and like the year they went like 5-11. But to Isaiah's credit, he did pick the Rams to win one of the years. It was in 2017, and they ended up winning the division. So he's still got a decent track record.
Hey, my guy Jared Goff is still better than Kirk Cousins. I'll give you that.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Jared Goff is a fraud. All right, let's go to Trevor's prediction.
For me, I'm looking at consistency. And who do we see that is consistent? The Seattle Seahawks. Year in and year out, they are consistent. Even though it gets a little weird at points in the season where they go on like a 3-game losing streak, it'd be like, well, Seattle might be out of the picture. The next 6 weeks later, they're going to go on a 6-game win streak. And by week 17, they're looking for that playoff berth or even clinching that division. So, like, you just can't count them out. So I say the Seattle Seahawks will get a playoff spot, but they have a higher chance of clinching that division because they're consistent.
The NFC West will be the Hawks' nest this year. Firmin, you're a Niners fan. Do you believe in your Niners to continue the success this year?
All right. So, yeah, this has been one of the toughest divisions I've ever, seen. And I hate to go through this as a Niners fan, just every year, seeing almost every team become playoff contenders in the NFC West. But I really do have faith in this team this year. Even though I'm a Niners fan, I actually believe this team has a lot more potential. And especially since the 49ers are out of or just lost the Super Bowl, it's very unlikely that you'll have the same type of drive, the same type of zeal to really push through all these regular seasons and playoffs. So I'm looking for consistency as well. And I know 2 of you guys picked Seattle, but I really do believe Arizona Cardinals is going to win this division, man.
Whoa. And that makes the consensus. Quarantine Chats pick the Seattle Seahawks. But Firmin, go on.
Like, just think about it, man. You guys, people are sleeping on Kenyon Drake, and they did not see how explosive he was last year because he did not have enough games. But this guy is the real deal and the real steal for the Arizona Cardinals. They took him straight from Miami, and he was a real asset. And I think he's definitely a big upgrade over David Johnson. And in terms of wide receivers, they have so many weapons, man. They got DeAndre Hopkins and they've got Larry Fitzgerald, who are really consistent in making the best catches. And they've also got really good speedy wideouts. They've got Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella. And I think if Cliff Kingsbury knows how to use these guys really well, they're going to be super explosive. I mean, they've got Kyler Murray as well and on the snap. And running the Cliff Kingsbury offense is really going to be a benefit to all of these players. And if they work around each other with good chemistry, I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to take down every single team in the NFC West. I mean, Seattle last year, I do not think they were consistent at all in terms of the NFC West. You've seen them fall down to the Rams. You've seen them fall down to the Cardinals. And even though they've lost it at the 1-yard line, they still weren't able to finish off their season against the 49ers. And with this much talent, I don't think Seattle has an edge to really contend against all 6 of these games with the 49ers, Cardinals, and the Rams. And I think the Cardinals really do have the best chance to make it out because you've seen what they've been able to do with the 49ers defense last year. They've completely tore apart their defense and really made it a really difficult game for the 49ers to win. They've done the same thing with Seattle. And even though they've lost some games against the Rams, they're still able to consistently improve. And every season, it seems like they're getting better.
Yeah, it's going to be such a dogfight in the South and the West. I don't even know if these teams will have enough energy to really make a playoff run after what they go through in the regular season. But in the South, we have the Buccaneers. In the West, we have the Seahawks. And everyone's picking the Cowboys in the East and the Packers in the North, except for Trevor, who still needs to decide on his coin flip for the Cowboys and the Eagles. So with that in mind, we're running a little bit short on time. Let's give our NFC wildcard picks in the cluster of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and just put through my 3 NFC wildcard picks. And in no particular order, the Vikings, the Bears, and the Rams. Like I said, the North is one of those teams or one of those divisions where they have a lot of solid teams that have enough to make the playoffs, and they're solid teams that can get it done against the bad teams of the league, and they're consistently competitors year after year. I just don't see any of them making a Super Bowl run. And for that reason, that you don't have any team in the North that really sticks out from the rest. I think the Bears and the Vikings could very well find themselves as the two wildcard teams. And then the resurgence of the Rams. I love the Rams long term. I think Jared Goff has kind of been picked apart a little bit by the NFL since making the Super Bowl, but this is a year where he comes back, and I truly believe that they are going to find a way to Sean McVay will find a way to reignite that offense.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw out a very, very, very bold hot take. Steven, Trevor, Firmin, you guys ready to get the phone and drug test me or call the cops on me?
I'm perking up my ears here. Hold on, I got it on
had to
speed
move
dial right
closer.
here. Here we go. Oh.
The Seattle Seahawks, or the Sea Chickens, like I call them. The Seattle Seahawks will not only miss the playoffs, but they will finish last in the NFC West. I got as my three playoff teams, I got the New Orleans Saints. I've got the Arizona Cardinals with Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. And the last wild card team that I've got is my boy Jared Goff and the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams, they lost Todd Gurley, but Todd Gurley didn't really do that much last year. A lot of people are saying, oh, yeah, that's a big loss for the Rams. But, dude, Todd Gurley, he was non-existent last year. They still got Brandon Cooks. They've still got Robert Woods. That defense, they're still all right with Aaron Donald. So I just think McVay and Goff are going to come back with vengeance, and they're going to get that final 7th playoff spot.
So the Saints, the Cardinals, and the Rams.
Yep.
All right. Trevor or Firmin, take it away here.
Firmin, I'll let you go.
All right, I'll keep it really short. I think it's going to be the Vikings, the Vikings, the Saints, and the 49ers. So I don't really have much to say about it other than the fact that I think all three of these teams have playoff potential, but I do not think they're able to make it past the NFC Championship at its best.
Okay, Trevor.
All right. I have Breezy and the Saints as my first pick.
Nice.
My second pick, I'm going with Kyle Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. I know that's a risky one since they just got a lot of new players. And I told people in the past about building dream teams the first year. They stink. We've seen it happen to the Philly Dream Team, and we've seen it happen to the Cleveland Browns. Your first year just sucks. But I have a feeling this might be something different. Fingers crossed that, things go well for them. So I'm going to keep my Cardinals there. And then the third pick, I'm looking, and it's hard to really see, but a team that will not miss the playoffs. I have to go Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
Go.
All right, so I guess I'm the only one in this panel here that's has it out for Brady this year, and that's a very surprising reversal because usually Isaiah is the one who is just the total devil spawn when it comes to Brady, and just it's all about Joe Montana. Brady's done; he's washed up, and I'm the one who's always praising him like he's the next Messiah or something. But we got a little bit of a reversal this year. Let's see how those Buccaneers finish. It looks like right now, as for our wild card, we got 2 votes for the Vikings, 3 votes for the Saints. So Saints are going to be one of our picks. 2 votes for the Cardinals and 2 votes for the Rams. So really tight here. But I'm going to go ahead, unofficial quarantine chats, 3 wild card teams, the Saints, the Cardinals, and the Rams. That's what we got. Saints, Cardinals, and Rams. Moving on to the AFC. The AFC East.
Steven, you still there?
This is
I
tough,
can't,
man.
I can't pick.
Yes.
The Patriots have no one.
All right. Well, let's just. I'm pretty sure we're all pretty certain about who's going to win this division. The Buffalo Bills.
I think so.
Any objections there, guys?
No objection.
All right, I'm gonna have to
Okay.
be like the curveball here. I'll go for the Jets.
Oh my God! No way, man.
You had to be that one person.
Like, I love the Buffalo Bills, but like, I've always been this person to never believe that Josh Allen is the answer to their offense, and that's literally all they need in order to improve their offensive game plan. And I think Sean McDermott is just way too conservative on play calling, and he's not going to be able to develop Josh Allen to the player we expect him to be. And I think Sam Darnold definitely has a lot of room to improve upon his errors. And even though the Jets were last in offense, I think, Sam Darnold and Le'Veon Bell, they can definitely get some things going in 2020. And, they're not going to be the best team, but I think they're going to have like sort of like an 8-8 or a 9-7 type of season and edge out against the Bills.
Yeah, because the Bills did lose some key players on defense. So even though they did get Stephon Diggs on offense, it remains to be seen how that defense and how Josh Allen will perform in primetime situations there. Unfortunately, I just don't see the AFC East creating many primetime situations for the Bills outside of maybe the Patriots. I see them dominating the Jets and the Dolphins. And hey, if you're going to pick the Jets, Darnold better stop seeing ghosts.
That's a good one.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the AFC North. What a curveball and mess of a division right now, because you've had so many teams that have just kind of lost their identity. The Bengals, I remember back in the day when they were a Super Bowl contender with Andy Dalton. I remember the Steelers when Ben Roethlisberger was still leading that team healthy and not getting injured every minute. So for this one, it's really easy for me. I'm going to pick the Ravens.
You're going to pick the Ravens?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a surprise. I never pick them because I always root against them because Steven and the rest of my Ohio friends love to talk them up so much. I find it annoying. I'm going to go with the Brownies. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns.
Now, yeah, the Browns are one team that's added a lot of weapons and actually kind of improved their team since Baker Mayfield's been drafted. So that's an interesting one. I just think the Ravens have a lot more continuity, and Lamar Jackson, teams still haven't figured out a way to really stop him.
Yeah, the Browns, they fixed what they had to this offseason, which was the offensive line. Jack Conklin, getting him was huge. I just think that now Baker Mayfield gets more time in the pocket to throw the football. You add Austin Hooper. I love that signing. And then the defense, they added Carl Joseph, who Ryan, I think on fan response, if I'm not mistaken, said that was like the steal of free agency for him. I love that move as well. So I love the Browns. So I think the Browns are going to win the AFC North.
But the one thing the Browns didn't do this year?
What?
They didn't take away Lamar Jackson. He's still on the Ravens. He's still in that division. And so they're going to win it.
I'm not a believer in Lamar Jackson. I'm telling you that. I'm not a believer in Lamar Jackson.
All right. Let's move on to Trevor.
For me, as I look, and after the heat that the Browns got this year for not completing what they should have done to be a playoff caliber team, in which they were, but they just fell apart. They missed field goals. They had the basics stopped. And the Ravens, Lamar Jackson beat the Patriots in Foxborough. Not too many quarterbacks can do that. And
Absolutely.
I'm thinking that Lamar Jackson can get the Ravens to the playoffs. It will probably be a coin flip because I know the Browns won't go down without a fight. They have all those weapons. So I feel like the Browns are going to clinch the division for the first time in forever, but the Ravens will get the wild card spot.
Ooh, wow, that's a bold pick there. Man, the Browns getting a lot of love on this segment. Firmin, take it away.
All right. I think this division is also really difficult in terms of competition. I think if the Bengals add Joe Burrow and Roethlisberger comes back really healthy, I think between all four of these teams, like Trevor said, it's going to be a coin flip. You don't know who's gonna, pop off in one of these games, and you just don't know what the result will be until the end of the season, at the very last game. But I think one of these teams definitely has a, a bit a bit of the everlasting potential that they've carried off from last season. And I think I'll give it to Baltimore Ravens because Baltimore Ravens, they've got a really good, strong offense with Lamar Jackson. They've also got really good key players. And defensively, they're able to, they have just as much talent and they scheme really well. So I think overall, Baltimore Ravens, I think they will still have the edge on this division, but they won't have as productive as a season that they had when they went 14-2.
This is interesting because we have our first ever draw on the show for division winners. 2 votes for the Ravens, 2 votes for the Browns. So, that's going to be very, very interesting, this division. Let's jump into the AFC South, where you have the Colts, you have the Texans, the Titans, and the Jags. This one's always like a crapshoot. I almost like look at this as the AFC side of the NFC East, in that you have 4 teams that like nobody ever really sees winning the Super Bowl, but somehow it becomes the most competitive division just because of how much every team sucks. So
All right.
in this crapshoot of a division, I'm going to pick the Colts, and then Furman, I'm going to let you speak your piece.
All right. You can't really say that this is a crapshoot. Look what the Titans did in the second half. They almost made it to the Super Bowl, and they had a 17-7
They're a terrible regular
lead.
season team. It's still a crapshoot in the regular season. They all suck in the regular season.
You can't always count them down. I mean, look at the New York Giants. They went like 9-7 in the wild card, and they still beat the 16-0 Patriots. So you can't count down every single team here. I think one of these teams definitely is going to have a really strong season, but I'll get back to that later.
Yeah. So for those guys, tuning in, the moral of the story: Ryan and Tannehill will make the Hall of Fame and be the next Eli Manning. You can't count them out, huh? Nah. But Furman, I want to hear your pick on who's going to win this division.
All right. So, like you said, I don't think any of these teams would have like a really defining margin in terms of who gets first place. But I'm gonna have to give this to Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans because these guys, you saw what happened in the second half of the season. They really tore it up on the ground. And Tannehill, when they actually force him to make throws, he's able to just connect with these crazy deep throws that completely confuses the defense. And you saw what they were able to do with that historic season they've had, going 9-7. Like I said, the Giants went 9-7 and beat the 16-0 Patriots. And look what the Tennessee Titans did to the number 1 defense of last season. They defeated the GOAT, and they defeated the New England Patriots in a really well-run fashion. They just grounded and pounded, and they also played good defense. And you just look at what they did throughout. I mean, they beat the Baltimore Ravens, who were 14-2. Like, nobody expected that to happen, and yet all they did was just run the ball and play good defense. And just imagine how much more they could do if they opened up the playbook to Ryan Tannehill, now that he's been with the Tennessee Titans for far much longer in the offseason as a starter. And, even against the Chiefs, like I said, they had a 17-7 lead. And even though they lost, that just shows you that the Tennessee Titans have a really high potential of breaking out as one of the top contenders for making the Super Bowl. So I'm going to have to place my bet on the Titans.
Yeah, all of those are great points. And I had said that the Colts were going to win the division. I got to make a quick correction there. I actually have them as one of my wild card picks, but I have the Titans winning it for many of the same reasons Furman named. I just don't see any of these teams as regular season teams. They're not consistent from a game-to-game basis. The Titans had their run in the playoffs last year, but I still think there's so much consistency lacking in that team. And I think part of it is that the receiving core just isn't that great. Like, who has Marcus Mariota in previous years had to work with besides Delaney Walker? And now Ryan Tannehill inheriting that offense. Who does he really have to work with within the receiving core? That's the main struggle of this team. And that's what's going to keep the entire division from being, any team in that division from being a compelling Super Bowl contender based on the regular season. So, Trevor,
Yeah.
as we know,
Go ahead, Trevor.
your quarterback Phillip Rivers has now joined the Colts and is now in the AFC South. That's why I really want to hear your take on who's going to win this division.
Old man River. I'm going to go with the Colts on this
Whoa.
one. I'm going to say they're going to go 12-4 because that division just sucks. I understand that the Titans have that strong run game, but Phillip Rivers can launch the ball deep and can leave a fourth quarter comeback. So he's the most experienced out of all the quarterbacks in that division. So he should go off. He has weapons in the wide receiver core. So like this team is a playoff caliber team. I don't think it's an AFC championship team though. So he's gonna fall short. It's gonna be sad. But if he doesn't and gets to the AFC championship game, he's gonna face Patrick Mahomes, and it's gonna be a classic showdown, and he's gonna squeak it out and get to that Super Bowl, and he's gonna win it.
By the way, that division has been really, really crazily competitive because in the past couple of years, because we've had 3 different division winners in the past 3 seasons. We had the Jags, and then we had the Texans, and now we have the Titans this past season. So who knows, man, if everything trends the way it is, old man River is going to have his coming out party there. He just keeps throwing. But Isaiah, we want to hear your pick right here.
Yeah, so while you guys all have been chatting about this division, I've been busy texting my boy Nolan Harmon to watch this show because I was about to make a bold prediction. I'm gonna go with Minshew Mania, baby, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. No, bro, I'm just joking about that. I'm gonna go with the coach, Trevor's guy, Phillip Rivers. I think that last year the Colts they had already a great team. They just needed a competent quarterback to come in there and sling the football, and they got one in Phillip Rivers. So I just think that, yeah, I got the Colts winning the AFC South.
So another tie here. We got the Titans and the Colts coin flip. Trevor, get that coin ready. It'll be out in 2 months. All right. In the AFC West now, I have dubbed this the new AFC East. Listen, none of these teams are ever going to be able to truly compete for this division as long as Patrick Mahomes is there. He was excellent in the Super Bowl. He just gets better season after season. I mean, in this guy's first year as a starter, he took the Patriots to the brink of elimination. If they had kept Kareem Hunt, who knows what kind of outcome there would have been. Then in his second year as a starter, he just torches all these teams. The Titans down 17-7, and then comes back on the Niners. He's incredible. I just don't think any team in the AFC West has an answer for the Chiefs. So I'm going to take the Chiefs.
I am going to surprise y'all right now.
Denver.
I am going to go with my guy, Vic Fangio, and the Denver Broncos winning.
He called it.
Like, I'm pretty sure right now Steven is on the phone about to call the cops to get me drug tested with that prediction. But
if it weren't for this green screen blocking my phone, I would show you the digits I'm dialing right now.
The reason why I say Denver is because I believe that Kansas City will have a Super Bowl hangover. I think that their D was their Achilles heel last year. Their D was terrible, and they got even worse losing, I think, Emmanuel Ogbah, one of their pass rushers, and they also lost Kendall Fuller, one of their top corners. So I think the Chiefs will take a step back. Yes, they have Patrick Mahomes and all that stuff, but I think they have a Super Bowl hangover. And if you look at the Denver Broncos, the Denver Broncos were 7-9. They should have won. They should have went 10-6. They had calls gone their way early on in the season. Vic Fangio, I think, did a fantastic job last year. They have a budding defense that got even better with the additions of Jarrell Casey and AJ Boye. And now you give Drew Lock, who's their future, weapons with Melvin Gordon. And then you add Graham Glasgow to protect him. I think the Denver Broncos, they are going to win the AFC West and shock the world.
I'm going to respond to that with 5 simple words.
What's up?
Drew Lock versus Patrick Mahomes. Come on, man. We know who's winning that matchup. All right, Trevor, moving on to you. I'm assuming you're not going to go for your LA Chargers.
We're rebuilding, sadly.
Yeah, so let's move on to whatever team you're picking.
I'm believing in Kermit the Frog and the Kansas City Chiefs to win that division. That division right now, I will say, is just rebuilding. The Chiefs will dominate for the at least next 5 years unless something crazy happens to Patrick Mahomes and he has like a terrible leg injury or separates his shoulder and just can't really throw the ball deep. That's like his only limitations. But besides that, I say the Chiefs are going to be locked in for at least the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, or maybe if Martin sorry-ass Raiders get all 32 picks of the first round in one of these years, that might turn it over, within the next 5 years. All right, Firmin.
Well, I think it's a no-brainer. Most of you guys have said it already. I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs will dominate this division for quite a while. I don't see this team winning every year, but I do see them at least winning the division or making it to the wild card as long as Mahomes stays healthy. Because you've seen what he's able to do, starting in his first full season as a starter already, throwing 50 touchdowns. That's incredible as a first-year starter for a quarterback. And he's only going to get better. And I think all of these teams really have to watch out for him. Now, I know Isaiah said Denver Broncos. They've got a pretty complete team as well. And if they're able to build around Drew Lock, Vic Fangio can definitely turn around their offense.
Drew Lock versus Patrick Mahomes. It's a very simple equation right there.
All right. Okay, but the Denver Broncos, they're able to still play through their defense. And Vic Fangio, he came from the 49ers. You saw what Harbaugh did to the 49ers with a mediocre offense. Denver Broncos can still pull this off. And they're still going to be, and I still believe that the Denver Broncos, regardless, in the next few years, they can still be really scary contenders as long as Vic Fangio is continuing to build this young team to their full potential.
All right.
Even though the 49ers lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and you saw how Mahomes completely dominated that defense, I think Broncos, they have a chance to possibly make it to the wild card within the next few years. But I do have to still stick with Mahomes at the end of the conclusion.
Steven, and about your Drew Lock Mahomes argument, come on, man. I'd take Brad Kaya over Mahomes any day of the week.
All right, guys, where's the mute button? All right, thanks for being on the show, Isaiah, but unfortunately you are expelled from all sports conversations from there right now. Right now, get this guy out of here. I mean, come on, no way. I'm not even going to dignify that with response. All I'm going to say is this. The Kansas City Chiefs are the new New England Patriots of the AFC, and the AFC West is the AFC East now. Get used to it, fellows. Let's move on to our wild card picks here. Again, we're going to predict them in a cluster of 3. I already have mine in mind here. In no particular order, I have the Patriots, the Browns, and the Colts. I know what I said about Phillip Rivers not really being in a position to be as efficient and effective as he was before, but Old Man River can still sling it down the field there to T.Y. Hilton and to Jack Doyle. I think the Colts will continue eking out a couple of close wins and hang on to the edge of a playoff spot there at 9-7. So, and the Patriots, I know everyone thinks that they're going to tank and everything, and they're hanging up the hat. Belichick's a coaching genius. They're going to make something out of Stidham, and that defense is still going to be excellent against a very lackluster AFC East. Because the Bills might have retooled, but offensively, they don't have it figured out with Allen. I think the Patriots can take one game out of there, and I just don't think the Jets or the Dolphins challenge them. So the Patriots get in at around 9-7, 10-6. I'll say 10-6. And then the Browns, I think the team that undoubtedly improved the most this offseason, they had a lot of expectations last year. I thought they might beat the 49ers in the regular season. That didn't work out, but I think with another year under their belt with Landry and Beckham, along with kind of who they've inherited on the offensive line, Coughlin, and their extra weapon in Austin Hooper, I think the Browns can finish in at 10-6. So Patriots, Browns, and Colts for me.
Nice. For my 3 wild card teams, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Raiders. You know, I just think that the Chiefs, as I said when I was picking my AFC West champion, I think that the Broncos are gonna overtake the Chiefs. Don't mean that the Chiefs are a bad team, but I just think that the Broncos will do what the 49ers did to the Seahawks. It will come down to the final week. And I just think the Broncos are going to best the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to be the top wild card. I got Lamar Jackson and the Ravens as my second one. And my third one, I'm going to go with the Raiders, Martin Garcia's Raiders. You know, the Raiders last year had, you know, their team wasn't really that good, and they still almost made the playoffs. They got better with the additions of Corey Littleton, and, you know, they got Jason Witten now, and they also got whoever they're going to draft with their draft pick in the top 10. So I really like how what John Gruden is building in Las Vegas.
Okay, Trevor.
Well, for me, I'm going to pick the Tennessee Titans, the Baltimore Ravens, and the third spot is going to be tough to decide, but I think the Denver Broncos will have enough to slide in.
Wow. Okay, Firmin.
All right. So for the first one, I have the Buffalo Bills. For the second one, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I think Philip Rivers can definitely take this talented team at least to the wild card. And for the third one, I was really debating between a tiebreaker between the Steelers or the Broncos, but I'm gonna have to give this to the Steelers because the Steelers they have Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin, you know, they've been part of this team for a long time. And regardless of how the Steelers did last season when Roethlisberger got hurt, you can tell that this team has a lot of potential because they were well coached and they have good players on defense that were able to, you know, hold these games to become really close. And if Roethlisberger comes back healthy, I think the Steelers can definitely have a better season in this coming 2020.
And on top of that, they got a duck caller in Devin Hodges. So,
Yep.
X factor right there, you know.
Yeah, and then the Bills, I think this team is really good on defense. They're really tough, really difficult for teams to stop, but offensively they've got to improve. So that's why I have them in the wild card. And lastly, the Colts. I think Philip Rivers and this Indianapolis in this Colts offense, they're going to be one of the top offenses in my opinion, because you know Philip Rivers is a veteran quarterback, and I think he knows how to work around a lot of talent. That's as long as he has good protection and good receivers that run the right routes.
Yeah, all great picks right here. So for a fan response unofficial AFC wildcards, we have 2 votes for the Ravens, 1 vote for the Browns, and 2 votes for the Colts. So I'm going to go with the Colts. Yeah, sorry, quarantine chat. So I would say the Colts will put them in there. I just don't think the Ravens are going to fail to win their division, so I'll put in the Browns in there as well. And then from there, it's kind of a toss-up. We got the Chiefs and the Titans and the Steelers all getting votes here. I'll put in your Denver Broncos, Isaiah.
Yay!
All right.
Well, gets put in.
Okay, so I posted our NFL playoff predictions in the comments section, and I'll clean it up after the show as far as what our predictions are officially. But that's going to do it for us here. This show
Hey,
is
Steven, before you continue on, hey guys, make sure you guys check out our new Carpool Chats YouTube channel. We officially have a Carpool Chats YouTube channel now. Steven will post the link of that in the comment section. I think it's gonna be pinned as well. Like you can watch all of our old videos and old debates, like did Devin Booker was that the biggest snub in NBA history for All-Star Game, and all of our other hot debates that we've had. You can watch it on our YouTube channel, so please go check it out and subscribe as well.
Yeah, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It was an honor having you on for the first time, Firmin.
Thank you guys.
And it was an honor having you from Pennsylvania as well, Trevor.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Steven, I got one last question for you.
Yes.
Am I suspended for next week's show because I made that Brad Kaya Patrick Mahomes comment? Do I have a suspension?
You know what? We're going to have to evaluate that with our panel. I have a feeling we need a certain level of crazy in our lives, Isaiah, especially with the quarantine going on. But thank you guys so much, and good night.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.